Hello, my turtles, and welcome to another video with me, Foxfoot Crafts. Today's video is going to feature another card that I will be making. Got my envelope ready and my paper already cut to size. So I'm just gonna go ahead, decide if I want it landscape or portrait, and go ahead and stamp my logo on the back. Once the stamp dries, I will go ahead and get started on the card. I am using my blue sketch pencil for this. With these pencils, it does hide the blue very well. It's hard to see the sketch. Even here on film, I'm noticing that it doesn't show up as well, so I do apologize for that. I luckily am speeding up this process quite a bit, so only a short part of the video I will go through and sketch out the piece before I get started with my markers. Whenever I do any of my bird pieces, I like to kind of rough block out where the different patterns are, where different colors are supposed to go, but not go into heavy detail with them. And the reason for that being, I'm able to go back in more detail with the markers, kind of flow, pull the colors together a little bit better without having the rigid pencil lines there. For this piece, I decided to go with a wood duck. I couldn't recall if I have drawn a wood duck or not. I know I've drawn them for like other things, but I wasn't sure if I had put a wood duck on the card yet, so. They're a really pretty duck, and I figured, you know what? Even if I have drawn a wood duck, I don't think anyone is going to be upset about getting two wood ducks. They're just really beautiful ducks. Like I said, just kind of sketching out some of the areas where those different feather patterns are. So wood ducks have a lot of different really vibrant patches to them, a lot of really cool patterns, and so just kind of blocking out where they will be, but not being super strict on it. Once I get the sketch where I'm happy with it, I am going to tape it down to a piece of lamination film. This actually helps prevent the marker ink from bleeding through onto my table. It also helps, in my opinion, the paper to absorb the ink a little bit better because it's not getting absorbed behind it. It's just sitting on a piece of plastic, and so the ink has to go into the paper. At least that's what I tell myself. It makes sense in my mind. So whether or not it's accurate, I'm not sure. Again, I had to speed this up. I am not proud of how long it took me to tape this down. once I get everything taped down, I will do some color swatching to try to figure out which colors I want to use, and then get started on the duck themselves. What I'd like to do at this point is try to match similar colored areas on the duck and hit those up first. So I'm looking for any of those reddish brown kind of colors, kind of areas on the wood duck, and making sure I color those first. This helps me to make sure I'm matching the colors, matching the details, and if I were to just color the breast and then come back to the wing, I may not remember exactly which markers I used. So I like to try to hit similar colors throughout the entire piece. So here you can see the little wing tips of these feathers. These feathers would normally have kind of like a black and white banding to them right at the tips, and just, again, cannot stress how pretty these ducks are. And it's probably one of my reasons I really enjoy drawing birds over mammals, because you just have such amazing patterns when you get to the feathers, and maybe that's why I'm able to draw birds more than mammals as well. I can definitely speak on that. I'm going to enjoy drawing something I'm better at drawing, of course, and so I am better at drawing birds than I am at drawing mammals, but I really enjoy all of the different patterns and textures that I get to draw with pieces like this. For those of you who have seen some of my other videos, you might recognize a trend whenever I do cards like this. They do always feature wildlife, and you are correct that they are for the same people in my life. I think, gosh, what was the term we used? Claimed family, found family. Just it's a trend that my partner and I have, of where we meet people that we just love and we're like, yep, you're ours now, you're part of our family, and whether they want to be or not. So yes, this is for my claimed mother, for Mother's Day. So I recently found out that she does art as well, that she is an amazing artist. I had never seen any of her work until recently, and I was floored. Like, any of you guys who have seen previous art pieces that I've done for her, I know that you've heard me talk about what a badass she is, and to learn that she does art as well, I'm like, oh my gosh, what can't this woman do? Like, every time I learn a little bit more, I'm absolutely amazed. So I think that's another reason I chose a wood duck. I was like, you know, a wood duck is just an amazing bird that she deserves a piece of art as amazing as she is. So yeah, very, very cool. Love getting to find out little fun facts about people that you love. So again, I cannot stress, this is a time lapse, kind of sped up, so I tried editing out any of the little pauses. I apologize, y'all. It is a lot of work going through editing software and cutting out all of the times that I just stare at the piece. There's a lot of times in art where you just stare at your piece or tap your fingers, and you're like, what next? What part next? And so, any of the small lulls in the piece, trust me, they were not small in real life. It was maybe just 10-20 minutes of me staring, trying to figure out what was the next step. And especially as the piece goes along, you know, you'll look at something and you're like, gosh, it's come so far already. What if I do this next step and mess it up? And so while you are seeing more progress, you also start to see more hesitation, because you're like, gosh, I've already gotten this far. What if I do more and I'm unhappy with it? It is a challenge. And the marker choices. I always try to start a piece with a clean desk, and by the end, it's just full of markers every time. Even if I'm like, okay, I'm only going to use a very limited color palette, somehow still by the end, markers are everywhere. It's just inevitable. If you're an artist and you can share that pain, please let me know that I'm not the only one, because every single time when I'm done with an art project, I'm like, man, now I've got to clean up all these markers. And the only person I have to be upset with is myself. So hopefully it's not just me out there. Now, from this point, one of the things I have been doing more often and really loving how it looks is, once I'm done with the markers, going back over with a colored pencil to add in some of the more fine shading and details. It has that really organic, just sketchy look, but I really like it. there's just something natural and organic about it that when you look at it, it feels right for these pieces, especially with birds. So going back over with the colored pencils, just adding in a little bit of extra texture to the feathers and some of the lines and a little bit of shading on where feathers overlap. It really pops with the colored pencils. So definitely glad that I'm able to use those more, because I originally started doing art with colored pencils before moving on to alcohol markers. So to get to bring them back out and use them and combine the two has been really rewarding. For these spots on the front, I actually was originally going to try to like stipple around the paper and let the white of the paper shine through the red. And as soon as I started, I was like, no, that is maybe way too difficult. And I don't know why I have not used a white gel pen to do this kind of stuff more, because let me tell you, it was way easier to go back with the white gel pen and add in those little white details than it was to try to color the red breast and then leave the little white uncolored. So keeping that in mind for future pieces as well. Once I'm happy with the piece, clean up just a little bit, because I'm going to be pulling out even more markers. Because why stop here? Let's add a fancy color gradient background. Color matching is something that I do kind of struggle with, so figuring out which colors I wanted to do for the background took a little bit of time. Once I figured out the color gradient that I wanted to go with, I just go ahead and fill those in. A lot of my markers are starting to dry up a little bit, which is a little upsetting. I do use them a lot, so it makes sense, but it doesn't make it any less upsetting. What that ultimately means is when I do larger things like this with the big backgrounds, they don't want to blend as well. They're not as juicy, I guess you could say. If the markers are more juicy, they do tend to blend a little bit easier. When they're starting to dry out, you have to go over each of the parts a few times to make sure that it blends thoroughly. It's not the end of the world, it's just a little frustrating. I really like the way this kind of salmon pink color looks against the colors of the wood duck. I think it helps him to pop. And then especially when I added in the purple, it just up against that green, and it helps, the purple on him to pop. It was a really good color choice. So while I sat there and dwelled on it for a very long time, ultimately I was really happy with my choices. And after I sign it, I will go ahead and remove the tape. Once the tape is removed, you can see that nice white border. Let me go ahead and scan that in so y'all can see it close. And there we have it. Like I said, I'm really happy with this piece. I hope that my collected mom enjoys it as well. I'm not gonna share what I'm writing inside because that's personal, and we don't get personal here at Foxfoot Crafts. As always, thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye!